Welcome to the Turkey Hunter Podcast with me, your host, Andy Galliano. In this podcast, I share with turkey hunters just like you how to have more turkeys on your hunting property and how to have more successful turkey hunts. I teach you how to do this with tips and interviews with turkey hunting pros, wildlife management tips, and entertaining turkey hunting stories. Tune in weekly as I share proven and simple strategies to help you have more success this turkey season. Make sure to head over to www.iamturkeyhunting.com to subscribe to receive free turkey hunting tips, tactics, strategies, and product reviews. Also, please visit and like my Facebook fan page. Go to Facebook and search I Am Turkey Hunting, and also feel free to post your turkey hunting photos from this past season and let us know where and when you killed your bird. For all of you Twitter users out there, please follow me on Twitter, where my handle is @TurkeyHitman, and I will be sure to follow you back. And now, for this week's show. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Turkey Hunter Podcast. You are listening to episode 85, Summer and Fall Planting for Wild Turkeys with Scott Bronkema. And I am your host, and the guy who much prefers to watch women's college softball than Major League Baseball. I am currently enjoying the College World Series softball games that are on, and actually enjoy that every year. It's always a lot of fun, and when it gets down to tournament time, there's no shortage of excitement. Even though my team is not in the finals this year, it is still fun to watch. So this week I've got a great show. I'm always trying to figure out how to get more turkeys on my hunting properties and keep them there as well. And that is always a challenge. One way that you can keep turkeys on your property, and be sure to do that year in and year out, is to make sure that they have enough food. And that is exactly what I'm talking about this week with Scott Bronkema with Boneyard Seed in Michigan. So I wanted to get with Scott and talk about some summer and fall plantings that we could be doing for our turkeys to make sure that we have enough food for them during this time of year. It's an interesting time of year for birds because a lot of the turkeys this time of year are not flocked back up. So you'll see a lot of single hens, maybe 2 or 3 hens together, and you'll see a lot of single gobblers as well. So it's a pretty neat time of year, and about the only time of year when you will not see turkeys flocked up. So we want to be sure that during this time of year, when the turkeys are a little stressed, the hens are stressed from having had a bunch of eggs and from having a brood of poults to raise and to keep safe, and the gobblers are stressed coming off of a mating season where there's a lot of fighting going on, and they've been hunted by every predator on the face of the earth, basically. So now's a good time for the turkeys to get calmed back down and get fattened back up and start to get ready for the fall and winter. One way that we can help them do that is by making sure that we're planting the right things for them to eat, and planting things that will keep them on our properties instead of letting them wander onto the neighbor's property. So Scott and I are going to talk about that today. But before we do that, I want to read a review from iTunes. And Eddie Free left a 5-star rating and a review. And Eddie says, 5 stars, great show, but I really enjoy the show and have learned a lot, but the audio on the interviews is not good when it comes to the guests calling in. I would suggest setting up a Skype account and have them call into that. I had to just stop listening to the last interview about hunting in different weather. It's just too bad sounding. Well, Eddie, first and foremost, thank you very much for taking time to leave a review and for leaving a 5-star rating as well. And you are right. That interview with Preston Pittman about hunting in different weather conditions, the audio is bad on it. And I actually do have and use a Skype account. That is primarily how I interview and record the interviews with my guests. But I'm going to say this. The audio is hit and miss on a lot of these interviews because it's rare these days that someone has a landline. And it's rare these days that I can catch a guy like Preston Pittman or a Chris Parrish or an Eddie Salter who is sitting down at a desk, because most of these guys are on the go, and they're on the go from daylight to dark. So I end up having to call a cell phone a lot of times. And where most of these guys live, which are in rural parts of the country, cell coverage is not all that great. So I try to make the best out of what I get in these interviews. And some of them I'm able to clean up a little bit, and some of them I am not. The interview with Preston, I actually tried to clean it up, and I'm not sure, but I may have made it worse by trying to clean it up. So I will get back out there and try to clean up that interview again and redo it. But my intern Cameron and I had a very difficult time with that interview. The audio was bad to start with. The content was so good that we had to run with it. I wanted to get it out there to you guys, even though the audio was bad. And I felt like we all could kind of struggle through 45 minutes or so of poor audio quality. But I'm sorry to hear that you could not, Eddie, and yes, that is something that is always a concern with these interviews, and especially when you get some of these big name guys on, and just getting a time scheduled with them is difficult. And then if you have technical difficulties with Skype or their cell connection or just my internet connection, whatever it happens to be, then it does make it a little bit more difficult, and it makes it a little bit more touch and go with audio. But again, thank you very much. I appreciate any recommendations that you guys have on how the show can be better, and I always appreciate your feedback on iTunes. If you do have any kind of recommendations on ways that we can improve the show, email those to me, andy@imturkeyhunting.com. Trust me, I will read every one of those emails that you send. Any suggestions that you have, I am open to, because I want this to be the best hunting podcast out there. So, I'm moving on one last time. Eddie, thank you for the review. I appreciate the 5 stars, and I appreciate you taking time to leave that on iTunes. If you guys would like to leave a review, you may certainly do so. I do appreciate that. Now, without further ado, here is Scott Bronkema with Boneyard Seed, and we're going to talk about summer and fall plantings for wild turkeys. I hope you guys enjoy the interview, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hey everybody, I am glad to tell you that I have on the phone with me today Scott Bronkema, who is with Boneyard Seed Company in Michigan, and Scott is going to talk to us a little bit about some summer and fall plantings for wild turkeys. The last thing we want to do is have turkeys on our property in the spring and those eggs hatch. The poults are out looking for a high protein meal, which is usually insects, and they have to leave our property and go to the neighbor's property to find what they need to survive and to grow. And next thing you know, if the neighbor's got all of the stuff that turkeys love, like seeds and bugs and the perfect kind of plantings, then those turkeys are going to call the neighbor's property home, and they're not going to like our property as much. So we want to do everything we can to keep turkeys on our property and to grow big turkeys on our property. And Scott's going to help us with that a little bit today. So Scott, how are you and where are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'm in Michigan, near Grand Rapids, about centrally located in Michigan.
Okay, good deal. How's the weather up there today?
Nice, about 65 and sunny, and it's a nice day.
Man, I don't know what I would do for 65 degrees right now.
Oh, yeah. You're probably long past that. How are you down there?
Well, it's actually a little bit cooler today. We still have temps in the upper 80s, but the humidity is next to nothing today. So even somebody who is as hot-blooded as I am can go outside and sit in the shade today and not sweat. Whereas 2 days ago, it was 94 outside, and the humidity was, I would say, in the upper 80s,
wow.
About 80, 85%. It was brutal. And so all I have to do is just think about going outside in weather like that, and I start to sweat.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we got a welcome little break in the humidity, and it's probably going to be our last, so for several months anyway. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
But we're used to it, so it's just something we have to deal with.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And, we got to deal with the cold up here, so we had snow a couple months ago here, so.
Yeah, you guys had a snow around May the 15th. Or so, didn't you?
In mid-April, yeah.
Okay.
So that was about a month and a half ago. We had snow on the ground then. So,
yeah.
And there was a spot in May that it snowed a little bit, and never stuck or anything. But just kind of.
Yeah.
That's Michigan.
Well, that's Michigan, and I think I'll trade you those 3 months of high humidity for your 5 months of winter.
Oh no, thank you. You can keep that part. Yeah.
It's always fun to complain about it, I guess, and.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I've been doing a segment of the show that I call the Rapid Fire Q&A, and it's just a way for the listeners of the show to get to know you a little bit better. And what I'll do, if you're agreeable, is I'll put a stopwatch to you, and I'll run through 30 questions about turkeys and turkey hunting and fun stuff like that. And when we finish the last question, we'll see how your time compares with some other people that have been on the show and see if you can beat the current fastest time, which is Chris Parrish's 2 minutes and 8.96 seconds to answer 30 questions.
Okay.
Are you game to play along?
Sure thing. I'll give it a shot.
All right. Okay. I like that spirit. I will start the clock on the first question, and pass is an acceptable answer, just so you know, because some of these questions you may not be able to answer just yet. So
okay.
I know that you turkey hunt there in Michigan and don't know how much traveling you've done to turkey hunt, so some of these questions cover some of that, and you can pass on those if you need to.
Okay.
Okay. How many full-bodied turkey mounts do you own?
2.
How many turkeys did you kill last season?
1.
Diaphragm, box, pot and peg, or wing bone?
Box.
Wild turkey, grilled, baked, or fried?
Fried.
Wild turkey, on the rocks, neat, with cola, or with water?
Cola.
Number of Grand Slams?
None.
Make of your turkey shotgun?
Browning.
The make of your favorite turkey shotgun shell?
Winchester.
Have you ever killed a bearded hen?
No.
Have you ever killed a jake?
Yes.
Do you prefer a 10-minute successful hunt on a 2-year-old bird or a 4-hour-long hunt with a clean miss on a 4-year-old bird?
The second one, the 4-year-old bird.
Okay. Your favorite camo pattern?
Mossy oak.
Wild turkey legs, for dinner or for the dog?
For dinner.
More or less than 5 strikers in your turkey vest?
Less.
There are 30-mile-an-hour winds blowing at home the last day of turkey season. Are you hunting or sleeping in?
Hunting.
The state you killed your first turkey in?
Michigan.
State you killed your last turkey in?
Michigan.
Sit in a blind for 4 hours and squeeze the trigger, or run and gun for 1 hour and not shoot?
Run and gun.
Okay. Rios or Osceolas?
Osceolas.
Osceolas or Easterns?
Easterns.
Easterns or Merriams?
Easterns.
Public land out west or private land in the southeast?
Public and out west.
All right. 2 3/4 inch, 3 inch, or 3.5 inch shells?
3 inch.
4, 5, 6, or blended shot?
Blended.
Fields turkeys or woods turkeys?
Woods.
Pump or automatic?
Pump.
Shotgun scope, rifle sight, holographic sight, or beads?
Beads.
Rubber boots, leather boots, or snake boots?
Rubber.
You roost a bird this afternoon and it's pouring rain at daylight. Do you hunt?
Yes.
Favorite place you've ever hunted?
Michigan.
All right. I have 2 minutes and 52.81 seconds. So you're a little bit off of the record, which, by the way, Chris Parrish has just pretty much blown everybody out of the water. The only other person that's relatively close is Wayne Fears. But your 2 minutes and 52 seconds is a full 30 seconds faster than Eddie Salter. You are, you are 0.3 of a second faster than Preston Pittman. And let's see, Rob Keck has you beat by about 19 seconds. So you did really good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, but I like doing that. It just gives us an opportunity to break the ice a little bit and, like I said, get people the opportunity to know you a little bit better, because these interviews are so short. Just stuff that, those are questions that I would probably ask you if we were sitting around the campfire having a glass of wild turkey with soda or cola. So,
that's cool.
But That is not why you and I are talking today. You and I are talking today to talk a little about some farming, just not on a large scale. So we want to farm some wildlife. In particular, we want to farm for turkeys.
Sounds good.
So I know that there's a lot that goes into planting food plots for critters, for wildlife, that is beyond our control. But there are a lot of things that we do have control over that will help to maximize the effort, the time, and the expense that we put into these plots to grow plants for the animals that we want to hunt. Let's talk a little bit about that first. What are some of the things that we can do before we ever plant to make sure that we are getting the most out of our turkey food plots?
Probably the initial part is more finding the right spot on your property as far as the location and size. Two factors you want to think of mainly is for, if it's a good spot for the turkeys to be at, and also considering the availability of what you can grow there, because you got to think about the soils and the surroundings to make sure your plot's going to grow. You don't want to waste much of time there. And that's probably the main thing to get started before. And then, of course, seed selection as far as what you want to grow.
Okay. Do you recommend doing any kind of soil test or anything like that as well?
Oh, yeah. Once you find your location, you want to do the soil test. The main thing is on your soil test is the pH, which is the acidity of the soil. You want to be, the ratings on that it's on a scale from 1 to 14, and 7 being neutral. So you want to keep it from between 6 and 7. So it's slightly acidic. And then once you go above 7, it becomes alkaline. So you want to keep it in 6 to 7 is preferred. Closest to 6 is fine. It's good.
Okay. All right.
And once you have that, that's like the main thing. That's like the base for your whole plot, because that's going to determine how much the plants are going to be able to utilize the nutrients in the ground. If it's off, then the plants won't be able to process any. You could have as much fertilizer as nutrients as you could have on it, and the plants won't be able to process it and slowly die off.
Okay. Not every plant likes the same alkalinity, though, do they? Or the same pH?
Yeah, exactly. Some of them, it ranges anywhere from down in the 4s up to just over 7 to 8. And most plants have a range. If they grow in the lower parts in the 4 to 5 range, they'll still grow up to 6 or 7, so you have a range. You don't have to have an exact number, but usually it's about a point off between 4 and 5 or 6 and 7, basically.
Okay. And that just, I guess, further drives the point home that the first thing we need to do is select a location of the plot, then next decide what it is that we want to plant based on that soil type that's in that plot. And then once we know what we're going to plant, we need to start thinking about doing a soil test. And all of this needs to be done relatively far in advance before we ever get out there to throw seed, doesn't it?
Right, yeah, because even if your pH is off, there's products out there that you can change the pH. Most of it's on the lime base. Lime takes longer. There's new products on the market now that are a liquid that will, within a week, start working and raise or lower your pH to where you need to be. So now it's a lot easier to manage your soil. So if your soil's a little off, it's not like a big problem at all anymore. So you can, with the new products out there, you can change it and to be able to pretty much plant what you want. That's pretty neat. Basically. Yeah. So that's like the new things out there now that probably help out with the food plot to be able to manipulate your soil to accept pretty much anything.
That's pretty cool, because I didn't tell you this, but I'm an old school farmer, meaning that I've grown up in the city. I've been in the city my whole life, but my whole family, my mom's dad and my dad, my uncles and my aunts were all in the nursery and garden center business.
Oh, great.
So I'm familiar with a lot of this stuff, and, having been a hunter my whole life, I've been exposed a lot to food plots and making sure that those things are being done the right way. So I'm familiar with a lot of this, and when I say I'm old school, I had no idea that these new products were out, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, lime is what we're going to use to adjust the pH, and that's going to take 4 to 8 weeks to 12 weeks, depending on what type of lime we're going to use to even begin to start working on the pH. So that's really neat. What are some of those products? Do you know, can you name some of those specifically?
The one I'm most familiar with, I was first introduced to, is Deer Grow. They're out of the Midwest. I believe Iowa, but I actually met them at ATA a couple of years ago, and they introduced me to it, and that's the product that works great. And 2.5 gallons is equal to 1 ton of ag lime. So
holy cow!
Yeah, I guess you kind of to raise your pH a little bit, you'd have to bring in a ton or two of lime, and now you can carry it in a 2.5 gallon and put it out with a pump sprayer if you like, or any type of sprayer. And
yeah,
the drawback with them. There's a drawback. It's a more of a temporary. It'll last for a year to 2, and then you have to apply again. Where ag lime is 3 to 4. You don't have to put it on as much, but it speeds up the process. You can get 0.6. You can go from like 5 to 0.6 within 6 weeks. I think they say it is, and that usually fixes any problems you have.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, the plant can be growing. And so if you have, so the pH is actually growing up with the seed and then or the plant.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know that most of the country already has their summer food plots planted already, but for those of us in the South who have a longer growing season, there are quite a few of us who won't even really plant until the end of June, 1st of July, depending on what it is that we are planting. So for those people who still have, or for those people who already have their summer plots in, we might be a little bit too late for them to talk about summer plantings, but the good news is these podcasts stick around for a while, so this content will be available for them to pick up later for next year and next summer for those plots. But for those of us who don't have our summer plots in, what are some of the best summer plantings that we can put out to help keep turkeys on our property and to keep our poults growing through the summer months?
Any of the grains, I like the grains for summer to get you up to up until when you can plant your fall ones, and that'll be. But like if you get any like the sorghums or buckwheats, anything that'll seed out, and the turkeys will like to get around in there and scratching them and go through the seed.
Yeah,
and that's probably the main ones. Any of the grains, but
okay.
Summer's more of a limited time, I believe. So it's you want to get those in, and you want to get those can pretty much be planted as long as you're starting to get rain, keep getting rain, and it doesn't get too hot out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're past that too hot phase here in the South.
I guess
we're there. Yeah. Well, I know a lot of the guys that I know that plant the grains like corn and even millet for a dove shoot or plant sunflowers are really starting to get those in the ground now, because what we found is that, if you're growing this as a true crop, you want to get it in the ground after the first frost. But if you're growing it to hunt over, then you want to get it in the ground at a time when there's still going to be seed on the plant when we can legally hunt. So for corn, these guys are getting ready to plant corn now, and for their quote-unquote summer plots, which will actually give them corn into the time of year when they can start bow hunting and in the early part of gun season before the deer just eat every single grain of it up. So those later plantings for us in the South are something that we have to think about a good bit. But those grains are important, I think, for really keeping those turkeys around, because they do rely on them so much. And for, you're talking about summer plantings to take us through the summer and get us into a point where we start getting our fall plantings, which will take us in through the winter in the ground. And, I think that a lot of people where we have the growing season that's so long are using these summer plantings to roll over into the fall and hunt over that way. So a lot can be done, I guess, is what I'm saying, with when these things are planted and used. How long typically will the sorghums last, the seed last, once that plant comes up and we knock it down for the quail and the doves and the turkeys to eat? How long is it going to sit on the ground before they're just not going to pay it any attention anymore? And I know a lot of that has to do with snow and rain and that kind of fun stuff, but just on average, what do you think?
Yeah, a few weeks at least. up to a month. It depends on a lot on the rain and how circumstances. And I think a lot of it too is how much stays on the plant. If you get a lot of wind or driving rain, it'll knock plants down faster, and they'll get into it quicker and scoop it up. And then
Okay.
It can last for a different amount of time.
Yeah. Now, I know most of the plantings that we're going to do for turkeys are not just going to feed turkeys. They're going to feed anything and everything, just like what we talked about. The grains, if they're planted in the right area, can be flooded, and you can hunt ducks over them. You can hunt quail and grouse and dove and whatever else over these grains. Of course, the deer are in them as well. So that's probably something we need to think about as well when we're thinking about doing these plantings for turkeys is what our, to me, I'm always thinking turkeys. So any other game animal is secondary to me. So I have to kind of step back a little bit and say, okay, most of the people listening to this show are deer hunters. And so what is it that's out there that will bring those deer in and then also be a good food source for the turkeys and help pull them in?
Yeah, and that's a good thing. One thing to mention, a good summer one now is the chufa, or pronounced different ways. That's I want to say one of the hotter seeds on the market now. We're just starting to get into that now, it's planted about this time up until, I guess depending on how far south you are, up for another month or so. And that's an excellent turkey. That's one of those mainly for turkey. The deer will get into it a bit, and other animals. That's the turkeys, I guess, go nuts over that.
Yeah, it is crack cocaine for turkeys.
And like I said, right now we're just in the process of getting it just because of that reason. We're getting so many people wanting it, and we're starting to stock it.
Do you guys have wild hogs, feral hogs where you are?
No.
Okay.
We have a few. I mean, I've never seen one. They're around. I mean, you might hear of a dozen or so killed a year around here, and they're pretty much. Yeah, you can shoot on site type thing, just because they're just starting to get established here, and then of course the state doesn't want them here. So I know that's a big problem, especially for you guys down there.
It is, especially with the chufa, the hogs. For people listening to the show that don't know what a chufa is, I'm going to let you explain it, Scott. But before I say that, not only are chufa crack cocaine for turkeys, but they're crack cocaine for wild hogs and for raccoons, and they are quite tasty. If you've never had one, they're just a little bit difficult to clean and prepare to actually make something out of them. But if you ever eat one, you'll realize why turkeys and raccoons and deer and hogs like them so much. But explain what a chufa is for those people that don't know.
A chufa grows similar to a peanut. It'll grow under the ground, small in bunches, small tubers, and what happens is that, they actually dig them up or scratch them up or pull them up to get them out of the ground in any way they can. And I think in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. And like I said, they're like you said, they're addicted to the turkey gets into them and they're addicted to them.
Absolutely. We talked about some of the grains and getting those in the ground, but there are quite a few grains out there that don't do real well with drought and disease tolerance. Are there some grains that you can think of that would really be more hardy than others?
Yeah, like the buckwheats, those are very hardy.
Okay.
And what they'll do is they'll get to a certain spot and it's almost they'll just pop open and drop their seeds. Cowpeas are nice. They're very drought hardy.
Yeah.
It's not as the turkeys don't get them as much as the smaller grains, but they will once the seed pods mature and stuff, they'll get in those pretty heavy. And chicory, it's not a grain, but that's a big draw for turkeys.
Right. Okay.
And that's the main one as far as drought. Drought and plants is the top one as far to match it up with a species that you want to hunt, especially like a turkey or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about some of our fall and winter plantings. What would you kind of recommend as far as planting for turkeys that will keep them on our property through the winter and keep them fed through the winter as well, and even last on into spring turkey hunting season? And to kind of add on to that question, can you tell us what other animals that's going to help draw in and feed as well?
I guess my top one would probably be any of the perennials. That which would have to be planted in late fall down there. Because you're more adapted to the cool season, and that's the best growing time as it's cooler. And so if you get any of the clovers, alfalfas, and mix chicory in with them, that's the top one, I think. And what those will last depending on the maintenance you put on with the plot, they'll last 3 to 4 years without, and they'll go. And once you get those established, they'll last all summer and fall, and all the way down there all the way through the winter until the next season. I like the perennials myself. And again, that's like mainly the clovers and alfalfas. And alfalfa is pretty drought resistant if you get the right. And the same thing with the clovers. If you get you can get a more drought resistant, not totally drought resistant, but more tolerant of the drought.
Yeah. Because there are tons of different varieties of them, can you think of any of the varieties in particular that are more drought resistant that we might want to look at planting?
If any of the hardier ones, like the Ladino is a white, it's really top of the list as far as like adapts to the soil better and it's hardy and takes cold or heat. And medium red clovers, I like them. Any of the red clovers, crimson clover. Crimson clover is only it's an annual, it's not a perennial. But that's something that you can get started with. But yeah, my main ones are any of the Ladinos are my favorite ones. Red.
Okay. All right. And then clover's pretty interesting because we have to be really careful about what kind of fertilizer we put on clover, don't we?
Yeah. Clovers are a legum, so what they do is they draw in nitrogen to the soil. So you don't put any nitrogen on them, unlike most plants. The first problem we see people have, they dump a bunch of nitrogen on it, don't help. It's because they don't process it, but they take a lot of phosphorus and potassium. So those are the two things you want to use the most on them, just none of the nitrogen. Because actually, though, clovers are nice because they're a soil builders too, because they're actually drawing in your nitrogen. So once you're done with the clover plot, you till it up. It's an excellent plot then for any of if you want to plant corn or any of your grains in right after that, because your soil is going to be all, more rich with nitrogen and conditioned for the next plot.
Yeah. And I've never planted a true clover plot, just clover by itself with nothing else. Generally, any clover that I've ever planted has been in some sort of a mix with wheat or rye or both. But a true clover plot, I hear, can be finicky to maintain and get the right way. Is that the case, or are there some clovers that are easier to work with?
It's all in the mix of the clovers. Like I always have one of my plots is always a pure clover plot. And I rotate them just because they aren't all up here. It's all summer. They'll stay green through the winter, but they're underneath a couple feet of snow, so it doesn't help a lot.
Right.
But once you get them established, they're actually pretty tough to get rid of. It's just to get the real hardy ones, like I said, there's you jump back to Ladinos, and there's a Kupu 2 that's like the top of line one, and they just take a lot of use, a lot of grazing. They'll actually, even if it gets really dry out, they'll go dormant. We've had plots go dormant. A customer last year, he had his whole plot accidentally sprayed with Roundup by a neighbor because they were in the wrong spot, and so it killed it. Then this spring it came back just as lush as ever. So they'll take a lot of abuse. And a couple weeks ago, a Missouri plot flooded for 3 weeks, and the guy was all panicked because it just started looking nice. And I told him, well, let's wait and see once the water goes away, we'll see what we got left, and we'll go from there. And a week after it went away, it was all back to lush. There's a couple spots that didn't make it, but he's all set up still. So it's a hardy. Once you get it, the main thing is get established, and which I see is the planting time. If you get the roots, once you get the roots in the ground, they'll still probably quite a bit of use.
Okay.
And they're just great that's an all-around species, I should say, animals who like it. I mean, deer love it, of course. Turkeys are in there all the time. And one thing I do a lot is I like the chicories. I had something about chicories with me. I'll sprinkle that into my clover plots. You can pretty much put it on any plot, and it just kind of gives it an accent. If the animals are in there, that gives them something else to eat while they're in there.
Right, which is really important because a lot of hunting clubs here in the South will go out and plant the exact same planting in each one of their food plots for their fall or winter plots that they're planting. And, a deer and a turkey doesn't necessarily want to eat the same thing day in, day out. So just like you and I don't want to do that. So, I think having some mix in there is good if you're not just planting a different type of seed in your different plots around the property. I think those mixes work pretty well, and it also gives you the opportunity to have some of those plants come up at different times that deer and turkeys prefer at different times of the year if you do if you do a mix in your plots themselves. But yeah, deer are crazy about clover. There's no doubt about that. I have a little piece of property south of Birmingham where I occasionally deer hunt, and one of my neighbors there planted a clover plot, and the deer were just living in it. They were bedding down in it and eating, and it was insane at the number of deer that were using that clover plot. I can't remember what kind it was he planted, but yeah, it was pretty interesting to see. And here I am planting a mix of wheat and rye and a little bit of clover, and was not having near the number of deer in my plots as he was having in his.
Right.
So
and a big thing with that is to mow the clover, and it's a tough thing to do. I do it. I always do it because you have a great stand of clover, and you just run a mower across it and mow it down. Mm-hmm. And that actually helps it out a lot. It's just like your yard for grass. If you don't mow it just gets to a certain height, and it's going to eventually die out. You have to keep it mowed, and what it does is it promotes all the new growth, and that's what animals like, the deer and the turkey. The turkey will hit it a lot harder once you mow it, because they're pulling those new sprouts out, and when you mow it, it kind of stirs up any bugs or anything that want to come and scratch in it at the same time. So and that's the one thing I tell all my customers, just make sure you mow it. It seems weird to mow it down, but it'll come back, and then it comes back better in time.
Okay. And that mowing, I'm assuming, needs to take place in summer?
If you want to do the first one early, if you haven't, say if your plot's been in for the year, down in the south, you want to do it March, end of March. Once it gets 10 inches to a foot high, you just go ahead and mow it. And then, again, once you'll start seeing the blooms come out in the spring, they'll start flowering. I mow it then. But then it'll flower again in the fall. This is like the key to it. Let the flowers turn brown. They're almost black. They'll turn, and what it actually is that all those flowers are now seed pods. That's where they get the seeds. So then if you go through and mow at that time, once they turn black, you're actually reseeding your whole plot at that time. And then it just starts it all over again.
Yeah. Okay. So the first time they come to seed, March or April, May to June, if you're going further north, mow it, and then let it come to seed in the fall. Let the seed let it flower and come to seed, and then mow it after those seed heads turn.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Pretty interesting.
And that's the two main ones you want to do. You can do it any time in between. If you see it getting tall, it's not going to hurt it. But some people, I've heard of people doing it every week, which in my opinion is to the extreme. But I like to let it get up at least a foot or two high, depending on the growth rate.
And I'm assuming there's probably no real benefit in doing it every week. You're just trying to keep that height down and keep the new growth coming up. So probably there's no benefit in doing that every week, is there?
No, in my opinion, no. A lot of people like it because the new growth has more of the proteins in it as it's growing. So that's their theory behind that. But I've seen them mow it too much where it starts to get burnt. Because if you mow it and it don't rain for a week or two, you can burn it similar to a yard. Think of it as a grass. So if you mowed your yard every day really short, it's not going to do well either.
Okay. All right. Are there any other plantings that you can think of that we need to look at for turkeys and consider for turkeys?
We'd have forage turnip. That it's mainly we had it for deer. It doesn't have a big ball. It doesn't have the big bulb like your conventional turnip. It's basically just leaves. And we sell a lot in Tennessee and down there that they say the turkeys come in and just hammer it in the fall. They have problems. The guys are planting it for their deer, and the turkeys come in there and for some reason are just in it all the time. We've had the whole plot wiped out by turkeys. At the first couple of guys, I thought maybe they're nuts or something. So, some deer will come in there and hammering it in the middle of the night or something. But, they swear by it. The turkeys just come in there, and they're always in there. So we hear that quite a bit. And other than that, the grains, like I said, if you get any of the grains, even if you go up to peas are good. It's something, they like seed, so anything that's going to grow a seed, it's going to more than likely benefit turkey. And like I said earlier, the main thing is trying to time it for what you want it for, whether it's to hold the turkeys on your property or to hunt over. And so you want to time it for what time of year that the particular plant's going to mature out and be at the point where the turkeys are going to like it at that time.
Right.
Yeah, like oats. Oats are a good one. They're simple to grow, and turkey, like up here especially, turkeys annihilate the oat. Once they head out, they're in the oats every day. So those are pretty much the main ones.
As far as planting some of these grains and leaving them standing until we can actually get to that point to where we can hunt turkeys legally. I asked you about how long a grain's going to be okay laying on the ground, but I know we're going to get a little bit more time out of it if the plant's still standing and the grain's still on the seed head. But are there any grains that are going to hold up better that way? I would assume corn would be one.
Yeah, anything with a strong, like sunflowers, anything with the larger stalk. I mean, they come up with so much new stuff now. They have like a dwarf corn where the cobs actually grow close to the ground. They use them for duck hunting quite a bit, and we've been hearing people wanting to plant those for turkey just because they don't have to wait for the stalk tip over or anything like that. Yeah, so I need the larger grains with larger stalks are going to stand up, last the longest once they mature. Okay, all right. Well, that's good info, and I talk about so much of this in the respect of spring turkey hunting, but food plots are a great place to catch birds in the fall, to have a fall turkey hunt as well. So, these clover plots and these grain plots are fantastic places to fill a tag and put a turkey on the table for Thanksgiving. So we need to keep that in mind as we're planning our plantings. But Scott, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with me and talk a little bit about some different things out there. And, this is what you said, I think really hits home in the respect that the agricultural industry is changing constantly. There's so much money and so much energy and effort being put into research to come up with plants that are more disease tolerant and more drought tolerant and insect tolerant. And so we're getting all of these new varieties of these plants that have been around for thousands of years. They're just being genetically modified and improved in the respect that they're a lot easier for us part-time farmers to grow. So, I think that you taking time out of your schedule to talk to us about some of these things and, bring some things up that I haven't even really thought about, because alfalfa is not something that typically is going to do well as far south as I am, or at least in years past, but there's getting some more heat-tolerant varieties of alfalfa out there. And these researchers are doing a lot of good work. And so, I think that for anybody listening, if you're stuck in the rut of planting the same thing that you've been planting for the past 20 years, it might be time to give Scott a call and talk to him and see if he can, maybe give you some ideas of some different things that you can plant to bring some turkeys in and hunt those brown things with the white tails in the fall and winter as well. And so, Scott, I appreciate you taking time to do that. Tell us a little bit about your company and what you guys have going on right now, and tell us how we can get in touch with you if we have some questions about what grains we might want to plant or legumes or whatever else we might want to plant for our turkeys. I mean, you're welcome to call me anytime. You'll find my number. It's actually my direct cell phone number. It's right on our website, boneyardseed.com. And even our website has a lot of information. We're still working. We're always improving our site all the time, trying to keep up with the times and everything. Mm-hmm. And our door's always open. You can call any time. And I can't guarantee I'm going to answer every time, but we'll get back to you. And I'd love to help. I got into this more just to help people out. When I started out, there wasn't a whole lot of people I could talk to and ask, as far as more towards the food plot end for the wildlife. I grew up on a small hobby farm, so I knew about the planting part. It's more about what to plant, when to plant, and that type of stuff. So I like to help people out, and my best time of the year is in the fall in the springtime when people are turkey hunting. Have customers text me a picture, hey, I just got this, or thanks for the pot, or something like that. That makes the whole part for me. And I mean, even in any questions you may have, if I don't have the answer, I can get it pretty quick. We have a lot of guys that we can bounce questions off, and you usually can get them answered one way or another. So I don't know it all, but I try to keep up on as much as I can, as fast as I can. But like you said, times are changing fast, so I sure are. Everybody in. Yeah. And just because you're north of the Mason-Dixon line doesn't mean that you only do business north of the Mason-Dixon line either. You do ship north, south, east, west. Yeah, we ship all over the continental United States, guys. Anything from, anything on our online, our website's always free shipping. We have custom seed blends. If you have something particularly you want mixed up, we're happy to do it for you, and we ship it out. So we ship a lot down south. We ship everywhere. A lot out east, west, like you said, north. And very easy to get shipping. We like to think we have one of the faster shippings. Usually orders processed within a day or two, and it's 2 to 3 day shipping everywhere. So I'm a hunter, so I know how impatient we all get when you want to get something in the ground. So we get guys all the time. They want to get planted by the weekend. So it's Wednesday today, so we'll probably get the call. So, but we try our hardest to get everything out, to reach out to everybody and keep everybody happy. We like happy customers, and we'll do that. We'll do anything in our power to do that.
Absolutely. Those 7-day forecasts can be a hunter farmer's best friend and worst enemy at the same time, because when you look at that in the south, we have a tropical storm coming and we're going to get 2 inches of rain or something like that over the next 3 days. I need to get my seed in the ground, and then you realize I don't have seed and it's going to take a week to get it in. I'm going to miss the storm. That kind of stuff can drive you crazy. So yeah, having quick shipping with what you do can be a big benefit. And I follow you on social media, and I see a lot of pictures that you post of your, and forgive me if I get the name incorrect, but is it Bucks and Beards blend?
Yes, yeah, that's a clover and chicory blend. It's a mix of red and white clovers and chicory. That's probably our top seller, especially, pretty much their top seller all the way around, because it's good for a lot of turkey hunters as well as deer hunters. So that's our, and it took a few years to get that thing just tweaked right, but I use it myself. So, and anything pretty much that we sell, I've either used in my plot or I have used. So I make sure if I'm not going to use it, I don't want to sell it to somebody. So.
Right. So are some of these pictures that you're posting on Twitter coming from your game cameras on your plots?
Most of them are now. Yeah, this time of year, I keep my cameras out pretty much all year long, and because I want to catch them as they're shedding their antlers as well as when they're growing, and of course during in the spring for all the turkeys coming in. Yeah, so a lot of them are mine. In the next couple of weeks, we'll probably be getting a lot of the customers sending. They'll send me pictures or want me to post pictures for them. So I appreciate that. But all of them are. Any of the plot pictures are out of our plot, so kind of keep.
Looks like you're going to have some big ones there this year.
Yeah, it took a while. Yeah, we got some familiar ones in there. We've got a couple that have been in there for 3-4 years now that I can tell. And they just kind of, and again, it comes, that's the nice thing about food plots. So hold your deer, your turkey, or pretty much most of your animals are going to be in the food plot or going to hang around there eventually. And they just it becomes a habit for them a place for them to come visit. So it's a nice tool, to have in your toolbox for hunting there. So
yeah, as long as we're not harassing the animals and running them off all the time, then they will definitely be there.
Yeah, that's the trick, is to get it in and out quietly. And we had a couple hens in there. We had nests alongside the plot this year, and we just kind of work around that, and they'll be back again. We stay around.
So where can we find you on Facebook and Twitter? Do you know?
We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All of our social media sites are Boneyard Seed. If you type in Boneyard Seed, you'll find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Pretty much on all of them.
All right, great. I know some of the listeners would want to see some of those pics you've been posting.
Yeah, please follow us on there. I always love talking to people and seeing what they're posting as well. And it's just a nice connection instead of just being a company selling stuff. So we like to keep it more personal.
Good deal. Scott, thank you again so much. I really appreciate it. And I will be in touch with you. I'm going to check out that Bucks and Beards blend, and I might be ordering a few bags of that for myself and seeing what we can do with it.
Well, great.
Well, good deal. I certainly appreciate you so much, and I will, like I said, be in touch with you, and maybe we'll do this again sometime in the not-too-distant future.
Anytime. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me on. It's nice time.
Yeah, glad to do it. And good luck. Don't work too hard through the summer.
Try not to. You kind of got to make hay when you can. So, we'll have a couple. One good thing about it, we're kind of slow during the hunting season. So as long as the southern people don't bother us too much. You get a lot of, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Give you a chance to get in the woods and take advantage of those plots that you have.
Will do.
That's
you
good.
too.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. You too.
All right. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that and were able to pick up a few things you didn't know and get some ideas of some things that you may want to plant on your hunting property this summer and this fall to try to keep the turkeys there. It sure makes it easier to kill turkeys when you have turkeys on your hunting property. So, Scott, thank you for taking time to come on the show and for sharing your knowledge with us. And if you guys need any kind of seed, like Scott said, he can ship that anywhere in the country. So don't hesitate to give him a call and see what he can do to help you out. And if you catch him at the right time and he's not slammed, you might even be able to trick him into making some suggestions for you. So that is all I have for you guys this week. But before I cut you loose, just like last week, there's 4 things that I would love for you to do. Number 1, please forward, like, and share the show on social media. Number 2, please subscribe to the show. Subscribing is free, and you'll be notified when the most recent episode is uploaded. Number 3, please tell a hunting buddy about the show. Spreading information about the show via word of mouth is a huge help. And number 4, please tune in next week for another great episode of the Turkey Hunter Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. I know that you have choices. I appreciate you spending your time with us. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. You were just listening to the Turkey Hunter Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please go on over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. And make sure to head over to www.iamturkeyhunting.com to subscribe for free turkey hunting tips, tactics, strategies, and product reviews to help you have a more successful turkey season. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes on hunting afternoon birds, how to film your hunt, and the breeding cycle of hens, as well as some guest interviews. Thanks again for listening. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us. See you next week.